Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tell Nut Show. We have, as always, the fantastic Kirsha Fox. She is the author of the Deception and Justice series, homeschooling mom of four, avid reader, and gamer.
And this is Julia J.K. Allen, editor, author, and author coach. She's a fantasy and horror author who loves to put magic in everything. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest tonight is Rebecca Hamrick. She's the author of the zombie steeped sister saga, the Chasing trilogy, and the wacky all-female space opera, Atalan Adventures. Under the pen name Reverie Harwood, she also writes steamy alien romance. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yes, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your author journey? What got you started in writing? What does it look like for you?
My author journey started, I guess, writing stories since I was very small. We introduced the computer into my household at a young age, and writing. There wasn't a lot to do on computers back then, but I was able to write stories. So I started writing stories. Got lost a little bit into science and engineering as I went to school and all that. But now I'm back with two pen names and writing a lot. So it's a long story. The whole journey is a long story, but here we are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. I can relate. Just as soon as I learned how to write, I was like, let me write a story. I was so excited to have a new skill and all of that stuff. So I feel like just writing has been a part of me my whole life. Yeah, so we love that. And pen names, that's so exciting. You write. So does that mean you write a bunch of different genres then?
I write science fiction for both pen names, but one is steamier than the other. So I keep the marketing and everything separate.
Very smart.
That's wise.
Yeah,
I don't know how wise it is. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably way more work, but I think I don't know. I mean, it does seem to be like the generally given advice of like how to go about it, though, so that you don't accidentally have people wandering into the other books and being like, wait, what is this? What have I gotten myself into? Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had that happen with authors that I follow. And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. Like I usually end up enjoying the book, but it's nice to know what it is when you're going into it. So your saga, the Chasing trilogy, is that also science fiction?
That is science fiction. Yeah.
Okay. What draws you to the science fiction genre in general?
Besides writing stories, I wanted to be an author when I was younger, and then it moved to more in school. I gravitated towards science and biology and animals, and so I went to school to be a biomedical engineer.
Nice.
Or at least that's what I got that's what I got my degree in.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started, and I've always done like academic writing and that sort of thing. So it just kind of felt like an easy place to start when I began writing like full-length stories, was to be able to build from from a scientific standpoint. So the Chasing trilogy is about zombies, but they're medical zombies. And so I'm like, oh, this is a virus. So what if somebody can cure this virus? So that's what the story is based on, is the zombie apocalypse happened, but what happened if we could reverse it? What would change?
Nice. Okay. So you already had a foundation of science. It was a pretty easy step for you to step into the fiction then.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, you had all that knowledge to build from for your like world building and all of that stuff. Oh, that's wonderful.
When starting a new thing, do you usually like start with plot in mind or characters?
I usually do. I think it is premise, characters, then plot. So for example, the Chasing series started with that premise of, I'm tired of reading stories about the zombie apocalypse day one. I wanted to explore, what if zombies were old news? What if that was just a part of somebody's life, the backdrop? And from there, I was like, how do I want to explore that story? And so I have Audra, who finds her place in this world where she has an opportunity to cure her sister. And so
Mm,
this is her journey of trying to make enough money by
right.
bringing other people's sick zombie loved ones in to be cured. And she earns a little money that way. She's hoping to cure her sister. So it was started with premise and then characters of like who do we want to explore in this world,
Hmm.
and then from there those characters kind of drove the plot. Like she's working on this journey where she's trying to save up enough money for her sister, but somebody else arrives and says, oh well, I have another opportunity for you.
Oh, yeah.
So she is so then the whole story is driven by what she wants and her goals and motivations. So I think it's a little, that's kind of how I go: premise, characters, plot.
That's a good formula,
No,
definitely.
I really love that like way of structuring the idea and how to build it, in the brainstorming. Yeah. From this character plot. I really love too, because it's like so often we do like the post-apocalyptic, the zombie stories, and it's just the horror, the worst
Mhm.
in people that you can imagine, and just terror and gore. And I love that your story is about redemption and hope instead, even though it's the zombie story. And I think that's like a really great way of taking like, because there's no such thing as a new story, right? They've all been told, but changing the perspective enough that it really does seem like it's like a new great way of exploring. Like you said, it's not day one of the apocalypse breaking out and everyone's like, what's going on? And not, and like I said, just the chaos and despair of it all, but like it is been going on. It is old news. We've settled into it. And that perspective just seems really, really refreshing. I love that idea.
Yeah.
So, would you consider yourself more of a plotter then, or do you fall more into the pantser category?
I definitely more, as I have grown into writing more stories, I'm definitely more of a plotter. Um, I like, there's several, it's different for every story, right? But
Right.
um, as I brainstorm and then outline, I start to think about kind of what sort of story structure that I want. And I've relied on Safe Cat and Romancing the Beat, things like that, to try to make sure that my pacing's on track and like make sure that I'm hitting everything that I want to hit. And then it's from a brainstorm, it's a scene list, and then it's kind of quilting the scenes together that I want.
Mm,
Quilting the scenes. I really love that phrase.
that's beautiful. Yeah.
I did not make that up.
No, no, but it's a great way of describing it. We had another guest before that talked about braiding, right? Or,
Mm.
braiding everything together in stories, which Kirsha's really fantastic at in all of her books of braiding and all of these different little plot things that you forget that she's planted throughout the story and stuff. So that's really wonderful. But yeah, quilting is really nice when you think of it as like scene lists. Like if you do use that for your plotting, because there's so many different ways to outline of being
Yes.
like
We have
this
all
scene
these
and this scene.
chunks. What order do
Yes,
you want them to fall into? What you can sew them together
right.
later. Yes.
No, that is beautiful. That's why I love personally, I love doing these interviews with other authors, not only to talk about writing processes, but I love the beautiful way people explain things about their writing processes too. What do you think for you is the most important part of writing?
Telling life stories that may be completely out of this world, completely wacky,
Mm,
but
mm-hmm.
you learn a little bit about humanity or explore a little bit
Yeah.
about life and emotions um, through that lens.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's really a big part of telling fiction is telling the truth, right? Through fiction. It's a lot. I think it's a lot easier for us to access sometimes the truth of everything that's going on in the world when it's presented through a fictional story, because it's we can see and recognize the truth without like with that little bit of distance.
Right. So, uh, the next question is one of my favorites. But do you have a favorite author, and what's something you feel they do best?
Ooh, I've got lots of favorite authors.
Hmm.
I mean, if we do sci-fi, Becky Chambers. I
Hmm.
Mm,
love how her stories are so. peaceful and meandering, and she writes a lot of, I guess, what you would call solar punk. So it's very optimistic science fiction. It's like, what if the robots had an uprising and they decided to just go into the forest and enjoy their new lives? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, yes, what if awful things happen, but all of a sudden they're good things. So I really appreciate that that hopefulness, I guess, in science fiction, because a lot of it's so dystopian and high stakes. I enjoy how she can make something so low stakes very enjoyable and pleasurable.
I mean, that sounds like something I'd love to check out. I'm all about the optimism and sunshine shining out of everything.
Yes. I think that gritty isn't people love gritty, but there's something about not gritty that is comforting and I don't know, sometimes you just sort of want a fluffy, wholesome, happy story. I feel like those are a little harder to write.
Yes.
I think so, and I appreciate that she does it with a tone of seriousness. Most of my stuff, like Atalan Adventures, is a satire. So there's a lot of poking fun at horrible things. So I wouldn't necessarily call it like as hopeful and optimistic, but it's got that kind of at least poppy popcorn, like I can read this and escape for a little bit type
Oh,
feeling.
that sounds that sounds great. I think, we talk about every time we have like a humor or satire writer, humor and satire, like that is the hardest writing to ever do, and like you have to wait forever to even see if your jokes land. You know what I mean? It takes such bravery. Like I try and be funny in my writing, but I don't know if I could ever like attempt to really tackle humor or satire, and like that's a confidence issue with me, because like it is so difficult. How do you try and approach it with the satire writing?
With the satire writing, I try to approach it kind of with a lighthearted touch, but it is oftentimes it's something that I see out in the real world that I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why would that happen? And that gets me started on like this of like trying to put it in figure out a way to stick it into my story. I think it's part of just wanting to get something ridiculous across that that look, I see this. Don't you see this? I want to show it to you. Don't you see this? And I think it helps that I know humor is very subjective and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So I was like, I'm going to write this how I want to write it. I'm going to like take things that people know and understand and just try to flip the script of it, because they're like a kind of a ragtag delivery team. That's all they are. Is that they're on a spaceship, and so it's a lot of workplace humor. It's a lot of just basic stuff that I think we go through, but it's just in space, so you can laugh about it.
Yeah. And
they're able to shine a light on something to show you just how ridiculous it is. Yeah. Perfect.
I've always really loved like those everyday stories too, of being like, it doesn't have to be car chases and big exciting plots. It can be like normal life unfolding, and it still tells such a great story and is meaningful as well.
I feel like that was a lot of the magic of Terry Pratchett, where he's explaining things that we just have in every day, and in a fantasy setting, it sounds really silly, but
but it's silly anyway.
Because it is silly.
Yeah, it's very Atalan Adventures, very much a love letter for a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Douglas Adams type.
why don't you tell us a little bit about your series and the story?
Yeah, so Atalan Adventures is a an all-female space crew. I didn't mean for it to be. I just wanted there to be more female characters because I grew up watching Star Trek and Star Wars, and there just wasn't a lot of women in the series. So I wanted a lot of women in my series, and it really I started like filling out the crew because you have all these roles for the spaceship, and I ended up with just like one guy named Brian. So and I was like, wow, you really are like the token guy. So I fired him the first chapter or so. Like I was
Yes,
like,
we
just go
love
away.
that.
Just go away. We don't
Yes.
need you.
Right.
So yeah, it is. There's currently 9 novellas in the story. So
Wow.
it's like 3 trilogies. So I tried to make them to where you could read them in 1 or 2 sittings and get a little, get basically a television episode, and then like 3 stories would be like your season arc type thing. So
wow, that's a
yeah.
wonderful way of
That's
structuring
a
and
good way to
organizing
structure
it as well. Yeah, we love that. You're just full of like the efficiency and effective technique.
Well, it was because when I first started that, rapid release was all the the strategy. I was
Right.
like, wow, I can't write a bunch of novels, but I can write novellas, and so I started like writing them and tried to make sure that I was writing ahead, and so that I could release as they went on.
Yeah.
So that's how that started. But the 10th book is actually going to be a longer, like a novel length.
Oh, okay. I mean, but also like kudos, you wrote so many stories, right? So many words, novella or not, like that is so many words and stories that you accomplished to get out there. I always say one story is hard enough. Even a short story can be so difficult to write and stuff. So 9, and you're working on the 10th, and you had another series before that, so that's amazing. Um, that is really great. I'm just like absorbing your techniques right now because, like I said, like the premise, character, plot, and then now this like structuring of the within this the trilogy's built in within. I'm like, these are some great ideas. I'm just storing away the information for later.
Go for it.
Yes, thank you. What do you feel like you have learned from the writing process throughout this all?
What have I learned? I've learned that it takes a lot longer than you think it's going to take.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
It
Always.
it is such a long format of an art, right? It's more than I have friends who are poets and songwriters, and they work so quickly. It seems, right? And it takes so long to produce like one book, but it's a lot. There's a big journey that's part of it, and that part has its own obstacles and its own fun, just like the story you're writing.
Yeah. Especially when you tie in the idea of like rapid releases everything. And I also kind of had to struggle with that a little bit because my books are like thick, they're very intricate woven stories. And so, and then I have friends who are rapid releasing their books, like 3-4 books a year. And it makes you feel like you're so behind and like something's wrong with you for not being able to keep up. And you kind of have to find, like, every author has to decide for themselves, like, to give yourself grace for not being as fast as you want to be, for putting out a quality product rather than just slamming it out. Not that my friends were slamming them out, like, it was very good quality, but you have to not compare yourself to others, like, in that way.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of what is sustainable for me as I went into this full time and picked up that second pen name, which was basically a second job. It was, yes, that's what people were telling me what I should do, and I was like, but what can I do? What can I actually do? What can I sustain and be and think that this is like, yes, I can keep up that publishing pace for a time, but not forever.
Right.
I'm writing longer books, and they're taking much longer than I expected.
Yes.
But I'm like, if this is the author job that I want, then I need to be comfortable with the pace of it.
Yes.
It needs to be
Yes.
something that is sustainable, that isn't,
Yes.
oh, as long as I can do that, as long as I, keep all these plates spinning in the air, I'm good.
Mhm.
It needs to be, how would I enjoy my life with,
Right.
with that future success that I'm hoping for? Like, how much of that is writing, and how much of that writing can I do now, type thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
There's
think
such
it's
a tug
also.
between the hustle and the burnout. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. Getting burned out, yeah, is so detrimental and so dangerous, and it's so easy to we just push and push and push and try to push through it, and then we end up doing so much harm when we need and we require rest. And like you were saying, you can't enjoy your life even if you get all the success from writing that you hope for. If you're too busy keeping up this hectic schedule and being burned out, like, you're not going to have that chance and space to enjoy it anyways. And I know that, like, almost every person who's creative, like, struggles with imposter syndrome. And I think that, like, when it comes to things like, fast release, like rapid releasing versus like long novels that take more time, I just kind of try and view it as like they're different dishes. Like, even in baking, like a pie comes out much faster than a souffle does, I think. I don't know much about baking, but like there's certain things that just take a long time to rise into, fully develop into the dish they're going to be. Or like when you make a good spaghetti sauce, and it's best if you simmer it for as long as possible, right? To really deepen the flavor and stuff. And so it's like, yeah, you can, you know, I just try to look at it as like, they're just different types of dishes, right? It doesn't mean, that, there's good and bad to like the faster, meals to the quicker rapid releases. But sometimes you just want like that really deep complex flavor of a good sauce, and it's like it's worth waiting for if it takes a year or longer for it to come out.
I hope so.
I really do think so. I mean, there's some things I've waited forever for a book to come out, and then it comes out and I was like, oh, it was so worth waiting for, that feeling of satisfaction of just being like, and the more the anticipation builds up, the more excited you are. It's not always a bad thing, right?
Okay.
When a book
Okay.
takes a while to come out. Yeah.
I
That's
like
what I think.
I like that thought. I like that idea.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like, we all suffer so much from imposter syndrome. It's so hard not to compare to other people, and because we admire things in other people and we wish we had that for ourselves, but it's like you have so many other strengths that, are unique to you and really that you're putting into your stories no matter what. So yeah, I'm like, oh, that's been my struggle. Stop comparing to other people. Just like, are we better than we were yesterday? That's all that matters, right? It's just try to be better than yesterday.
At least the book is coming out eventually, because there's a lot of authors who made a name for themselves and then they never finished the series.
Right.
So
right.
you can tell yourself, like, at least my book is coming out. Like, some
yes,
of those books
there's
are never coming out.
certain author that comes to mind when you say that still hasn't even, I don't think, been writing on that novel that was due like 15 years ago. Right. So yes, any progress made is, at least it's progress.
It's progress.
Towards it. Yes. I keep telling myself it's like baby steps. It's all about consistency, right? It's not, because I'm one of those, it has to be leaps and bounds. Like, if I don't get it done in one day, I've failed. I feel like, you know what I mean, with everything I do in my life. And it's just like, no, it's about good habits, good routines, consistency, right? You just have to keep working towards your goal. If you get distracted or something happens and life happens, it's okay. Just constantly bring yourself back.
I couldn't be consistent to save my life. But I do live by the mantra of progress is progress. If I have a day where I'm able to get a lot of writing done, yay. If I have a day where I open the document and stare at it and cry, like, that's progress. I'm good.
It is.
You sat down.
You sat in front of it.
Tell yourself that you have to be a certain way to be a successful author. You just have to keep trying. You have to keep plugging away at it, and you have to keep growing.
Yeah.
But it has to be about you and not what is everyone else doing.
Right. Which is so hard to ignore. It really is. The eternal struggle. Right. But I always have loved Kirsch's book so much in particular, and I'm so excited for the next one. And like I said, it is going to be worth the wait, and I know that. So, yes.
So you sort of already answered it, but maybe you'll want to answer this one differently. If you could tell a new author one thing, what would it be?
I mean, I guess like the key thing is to get started, to put something down on that paper. The blank page can be very daunting. But you might find that you like revising more than you like writing. So like having something down can really start to solidify that thing. And then definitely I would surround myself with people who have the success that you want. So if you want to publish, I'd surround yourself with people who are publishing. If you want to write, if you're really involved into the prose and stuff, I'd get into some writing clubs and things like that. I think that's definitely when I got back into writing, I was like, when I started dabbling in fiction again, I didn't know if I could write a full-length novel. And I went to NaNoWriMo and went with a bunch of people and met a group of people and attached myself to a group that was already established and already had published authors. And I was just trying to figure out if I could write a book.
Right.
And they're like, no, like, keep going. Like, you gotta, like, being surrounded by those that have been there before.
Yes.
It's very helpful.
That's very good advice. Thank you.
I got to it eventually.
Yeah, no, yeah. Just get words on the page and find some friends or going in the same direction.
Exactly, because it's like what I love about writing is the community that you build around yourself through the writing. I think that, like, writing groups are so helpful because, you get that support, you get that encouragement, you get to see people who have been where you are pulling their hair out and how they've kept going and like how they've gotten to the end of the story and that it's worth it. Keep going, and they can give you so much guidance and advice. The other really important thing about writing groups, though, is you get feedback on your stories because there's, everyone talks about you just need 10,000 hours, right? But the whole concept of becoming a master at anything is not just putting in 10,000 hours of practice. It's putting in 10,000 hours of practice with feedback, right? Because if we're just doing 10,000 hours of practice, we're only reinforcing our bad habits, right? If we're not getting that feedback of being like, oh, try adding more vivid descriptions, more emotions into the scenes, or like getting those little tips of how we can improve as we go, then those 10,000 hours, like I said, can be just us reinforcing what we've always done without, any guidance or correction on that. Because like I was really fortunate that I was able to study, creative writing classes as, my major. I mean, I had other classes and stuff, of course, as well. But it's like that was the most valuable thing, was getting the feedback of being like, hey, this is really pretty. Like I remember I was so proud of a nonfiction braided essay that I wrote. And they're like, this sounds beautiful. The prose is wonderful, but there's no substance. Like what does it mean even? What was the point of writing it? And I was just like, good point. Because there really wasn't it just sounded pretty and I was so proud of it. But it's just like, you need the feedback of being like, hey, this is how you can improve this for next time. Or this is what may be missing in this, focus on this next time. Because I always love knowing kind of what my baseline is, so that in editing I can go and reinforce what is stripped down and stuff. So it's like getting that feedback to know of being like, here's a wall of dialogue, what's happening around it. And if I know that about myself, that I write that way, then in editing I can be like, let's add in all the descriptions, let's add in all this stuff to try and bolster what's not naturally strong. Yeah. So writing groups are great. And like I said, the community that you get from it is so wonderful. Yeah.
All right, tell us, do you have a favorite part of writing?
Anytime I can get into the flow of it is a good part. Yeah, the zone. Once I finally got that plot down and those scene lists, it's really nice to sit down in the morning and work on something and problem solve something. I think that's a fun part of my life.
Nothing feels better than like that flow state of just like you're like, oh, and the words are just pouring out of you. It's so exciting.
And it's all coming together and the characters aren't fighting you.
Yes. I know, what a wonderful. We chase that high. I feel like every time because it's like we get it. Like I feel like I get it once every like 100th time writing because I'm so distracted all the time that it's like before I get into flow state, I'm like, but wait, what's over here? And like, so it's like I chase that high constantly. I'm like, give me that flow. Yeah. Do you have a least favorite part of writing then?
Least favorite part. I think it's the least favorite part is when I'm working against myself. When I could be writing, but not this particular thing. So I don't write at all. Right. And I feel like if I could strengthen kind of channeling and focusing my energies, that I would do better and be happier with it. Because you don't always get to, like, I can decide to sit down and write every day, but creativity doesn't always come every day. So it's, I wish I could figure out a way to channel that, and I try. I've been working on different hobbies and artist date type thing. Just trying to make sure that I'm filling the well, and maybe eventually, like, I don't know, I don't do well like switching from project to project. But like that's my hope that I could, like, oh, I'm stuck here, so let me work on this one. And I haven't quite figured out that that tiny transition.
Transitions are rough.
So for me, I call that like writer guilt. When you're like, I could be writing right now, but I can't because I don't feel like writing. But part of you feels like you should be writing, and you're stuck in this guilt.
What I've been struggling with recently is, or what I've struggled with this book was, it was a dual point of view. There was a grumpy character and a sunshine character. And I found it very difficult to switch back and forth between the two perspectives. And once I kind of did get into that groove, it was hard to like switch that day. Like today's a grumpy day or today's a sunshine day. But if I got done with the chapter and I had some time to write more, but the next one's a sunshine chapter. Well, so that writer's guilt, I can feel that of like, oh, I should just be able to just jump into her head and keep writing.
Yes, when you're swapping points of view, it can be really hard to get into that character's head when one of their voices is being louder than the other.
I mean, I would just say that, like, I talked about this earlier with a friend of being like, you know, we have these concepts of what is ideal and what is perfect, but it's like we're made different for a reason, right? You are made to not, you know, switch back and forth as easily. And I feel like it's maybe because you are more in tune with that character. Like you get so in depth in their perspective of the grumpy character that of course it would be difficult to switch to the sunshine character. But here's the thing, since you do plot, you don't have to write in order. And that can be a really freeing, because that like when I had that revelation, like that was really freeing, because there was a long time where I was like, I have to write chapter 1, chapter 2, and I would get writer's block and I would get stuck instead of just jumping ahead and being like, well, I know I can come back to this later because I know what's coming next anyways because I plotted it. And so like that was like really like freeing for me of being like, if you're stuck in the grumpy character, jump to the next grumpy chapter, right? Because you can figure out and quilt it together after, right? But like, yeah, the whole and when we're guilting each other or ourselves for not resting, you're not getting the rest you need anyways, right? Because we're beating ourselves up the whole time. It's not really rest and recharging that creative well. You know, so it's like I said, if it helps, if you feel like you can't jump from project to project easily, which I totally get, because like I said, transitions are hard for so many people for a reason, but it's like, you know, keep going with the grumpy character, just write out of order. Because I used to do that with like, if I had a big emotion that day of like, oh, I'm feeling the sads, you know, I would find a really emotionally sad chapter to write because I could write out of order. And then when I was in a good mood, I'd jump to something happier and more lighthearted. So I found that really helpful.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of plotting and weaving or
Yeah.
quilting or however you do it. You can jump ahead and write the part that you are feeling. Um, but it can be hard when you finish up the chapter and now you want to switch, but you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I'm just trying not to beat myself up about things anymore because I'm like, that's
Yes.
just, it's so easy to derail when I do that, of being
Mhm.
like, I should be doing it the better way or differently. And then I don't ever start. I like Mars rover, where it's like the rover was supposed to like do tasks by priority. And so it would start one task and be like, wait, this is more important. And it would pivot and it would just go back and forth between tasks. And for like 2 weeks, it wasn't doing anything because it kept changing its mind. And I'm like, that is me.
That
That
is
is me
me.
down to my soul. And so the engineers and the scientists reprogrammed it from Earth to be like a random task initiate. Like it doesn't have,
Just
we
so
don't
something
have
would
to have.
happen.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I'm always like,
Yes.
I need the perfect plan. I need to know the steps from 1 to 10 before I get started, or else it's a waste, or I'm spinning wheels. And
Mhm.
it's like, no, I'm spinning wheels. I'm wasting time by not starting because I'm waiting for the perfect plan first. So I'm like,
Which is
yeah, I'm
why
like,
your advice to a new author was so good. Just get words
yes,
on the page. Like
yes,
you can fix it,
yes.
you can revise it, just start.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's another thing as I'm writing this draft is like, don't go back and edit before you're done. Like you can fix it in editing when I remember something I want to change. Like just make a note and keep writing the draft.
Yes. All right. So this is my favorite question. What has
Okay.
been your most significant writing victory so far?
My most significant writing victory. Well, recently I think I'm finished with this manuscript for my Alien Warrior, which is
Yay!
yeah,
Yes.
which is the fourth book in this romance series. Tomorrow I'm gonna revisit the Grumpy epilogue,
Mm-hmm.
but today was the Sunshine epilogue, and I kind of worked both of them at the same time, which I don't usually do. But I was like, I think I'm trying to wrap up these notes, these stories. So yeah, that right now is the victory. And I also think that uh, celebrating those things are very good, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't always do it. So recently with this pen name and with these stories, I've
Mm-hmm.
been gifting myself something, because I would love for it to be like, for me to publish the book to all these cheers and clapping and,
Right.
tons of reviews and celebration, but it's not always like that. Um, and so I've realized that I have to come up with my own like good thing to reward myself with, because
Yes.
social media might not come through.
No, I think that is so, so important. The positive reinforcement. Yes. Yes. Always, always celebrate the small victories. I love
Yes.
that. And also, congratulations on writing the two epilogues pretty much together when you struggle with that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
What a
thank you.
victory. All right. One of my favorite questions. I just like things that people feel passionate about. Is there any writing advice that you hate?
Ooh, any writing advice that I hate? I think the writing advice I hate is anything that makes somebody stop writing.
Mm,
Oh,
Like,
that's good. Yeah.
with
right.
it might even like be the truth, but if they're not ready to like, if you don't do that correctly, if you don't like, it's not good advice if they quit.
No,
Yeah.
I love that answer.
No,
Yeah.
because I've seen that. I've seen that
Mhm.
where an editor was so harsh with the author that the author like was on the brink of quitting, and had to be talked away
Yes.
from the edge. Like it doesn't
Yes.
help to whip someone,
Hmm.
when you should be
Mm-hmm.
teaching them or working with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think
No. Yeah.
writing gets like your writing gets better.
Yes.
Yes.
From one project to the next, it's gonna get better. Like, so I don't necessarily, when people ask me for feedback, I don't necessarily think I need to correct everything that like is on my radar, because I know that like they're gonna get better. They're gonna get better naturally. As this was the
Right.
first attempt. The next attempt's gonna be even better.
Right. No. And there's no such thing as like the right or wrong way to do anything either. To be like, oh, if you're doing this, you're doing it wrong. Like when it comes to writing, or like all of the rules, like they can all be broken if you're being intentional and like, you know, you are breaking it for a reason. You can do anything that is like considered bad or faux pas writing. You know what I mean? So I love that answer of being like, yeah, if it makes you stop writing because it's demoralizing or critical or judgmental, then it is really horrible writing. We love that. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I like fragment sentences, so sorry.
Right. I mean, it's stylistic, right? It's not meant to be academically published, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's stylistic, it serves it's your voice.
Well, you're able to get more poetic with fragments.
Yes,
you know, and it invites the reader to fill things in, I think. So
yes, we love that. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and your books online?
Sure. You can find me at rmhamrick.com. I have my books available through that website, through Etsy, if you want to get signed paperbacks. I also have a Patreon/rmhamrick, and there you can get behind the scenes, Atalan number 10 book snippets. I'm posting that as I revise. So it's a great little behind the scenes indie author. I do transparency reports. So every month I tell you how much I made, how much what expenses I had, what I thought I was going to do, and what I ended up doing. So those would be the two main places. You can find my books on Amazon. The Chasing series is on Audible as well.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you guys for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes, absolutely loved this conversation. And thank you to everyone who's watching along at home. Remember, our next episode airs Friday as usual. And there's more than one way up the mountain. You can, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find us on social media at The Talnut Show or email us at thetalnutshow@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and liking. We appreciate all the support. Julia J.K. Allen is an author, editor, and coach, and can be found at hijingsrudder.com.
Kirsha Fox is an author, avid reader, gamer, and mother to 4, and you can find her at kirshafox.com. Thanks, and see you next time.